Okay, so before I get too far into this, I need to apologize for two things. One, the mess behind me, and two, we are at the tail end of a thunderstorm. So I don't know if we're going to be hearing rain hitting the windows or if we're going to be hearing thunder or what's going to be happening, but we are at the tail end of a thunderstorm, so we'll just have to deal with that. So tonight I thought I would go ahead and do the tattoo tag, which I've got the questions up on my computer, so let's just jump right on into it. The first question is, how many tattoos do you have? Technically, and we're going to break this down, technically I have 11. 4 of them have been covered up. 2 of them very poorly covered up. I have, my very first tattoo was covered up, and then I have 2 others that got covered up. One of which I was kind of on the fence about covering, but in order to cover the one below it, I kind of had to cover it up. And that's what this one on my shoulder is actually covering, is 2 of them. And then there's on my other shoulder, that one's covering 2 as well. But yeah, technically I have 11 tattoos. What's your favorite tattoo? That's like picking your favorite child. I read these questions earlier and I was sitting here, I was like, I'm going to have an answer when I get to this question. I don't. Picking a favorite tattoo really is like picking a favorite child. Because it really changes on a regular basis. Sometimes it's this tattoo, sometimes it's this one. I've got stitching around my ankle that I really like. I've got, I've got my last initial on my other ankle. I've got Celtic knotwork. I've got all this different stuff. And honestly, I don't know. I can't really pick a favorite. I would probably say my wolf moon, which is on this shoulder. That's probably my favorite. How old were you when you got your first tattoo? I was 18 when I got my first tattoos. I say tattoos because I got 2 of them done in one day. My very first tattoo, this is such a pansy story. I was on spring break, big surprise. I was actually planning on getting the tattoo before we went on spring break, but a friend of mine came with me and we went to Philadelphia, and I was living in New Jersey at the time, so it wasn't like this huge trip or anything. My grandmother lived there and we stayed with my grandmother. It was like, we're party animals. Anyway, we ended up going down to South Street in Philadelphia, and there was a little tattoo parlor down the road. There were 2 of them that I went to. I went to 2 different tattoo parlors. I don't know what I was thinking. I was scared to death to get a tattoo. I didn't think I was going to be able to stand the pain. So I went in and I got these 2 little music notes done that I had drawn myself, and they were smaller than a dime. And they are actually, like I said earlier, they've been tattooed over. They're actually making the nostrils of the wolf in my wolf moon. You can't tell they're there. If you look really, really hard, really, really close, you might be able to make them out, but the guy did a really good job covering the 2 tattoos that are actually in that, so really hard to tell that they're in there, but I got that done. Once I realized that I could stand the pain, it was a couple hours later, I guess it was probably about 4 hours later, we went back down the same street, and that tattoo parlor was actually, they were really, really crowded, because it was like the middle of the night, so they were really, really crowded. And I went across the street to another tattoo parlor, and a tattoo artist did my second one, which was my tribal butterfly, which I really have to get to a tattoo parlor and have somebody work on because it is starting to look a little freaky. That was interesting. The next question is, what do your parents think about your tattoos? I don't know. Honestly, I honest to God, I don't know. I know when I was younger, my father was just happy that I didn't get a piercing. I don't know what it was with my father. He preferred that I get a tattoo instead of getting a piercing. I never understood the logic there, but that was the way he was. He was just glad I came home with a tattoo and not a piercing. My mother was okay with it. She was okay with the next one and the one after that and the one after that. My father never really said much about it. He had a favorite. I have my last name initial on my ankle, and it's done in kind of like a Celtic style. He liked that one because it was our last name. So that was the one tattoo that he did like. He actually kind of had a problem with them. He never told me to stop getting them. He never really said a whole lot, but it was quite obvious that they disgusted him. I didn't care. My mother, on the other hand, I actually twice have gone with my mother to get tattooed. So I'm kind of lucky in that aspect. My mom does have 2 tattoos, and I was with her for both, and I got 2 of my tattoos done. I actually got my wolf moon done with my mother, and the Celtic knotwork that I have on my calf, I got done with my mother. The next one is, does your boyfriend like your tattoos? If so, what's his favorite? I don't have a boyfriend at the moment, and even if I did, if he didn't like them, we probably wouldn't be dating, so... Okay, the next one is, did you always have a love for tattoos, and what's your inspiration? Yeah, I always liked tattoo art. There's so many different kinds of tattoo art out there, and I was always fascinated with it. You really could take a lot of the art that these artists do and open a tattoo art museum. And I've seen some absolutely mind-blowing tattoos. So I've always been fascinated with tattoo art. As far as my own inspiration, all of my tattoos do have some kind of meaning to me. They represent something about me, something that I either am or was. They're just something to me. And a lot of people will see things on me and they'll be like, well, what could that possibly mean to you? And they all do have meanings. I don't necessarily discuss the meanings with everybody. I mean, there's no, like, cheap and tawdry meanings to any of my tattoos, but it's not an interesting topic of conversation. It's, if I tell people what the meanings behind my tattoos are, my tattoos become really boring. So I just don't tell them. Do you plan on getting more tattoos in the future? Of course. I always liken tattoos to Pringles. Once you pop, you can't stop. I do have the tattoo addiction. I know there are other people on YouTube who would be able to attest to the fact that tattoos can be very addictive. So yeah, I do plan on having some more tattoos. I've got a couple of designs in mind at the moment. I actually need to get this one redone. Haven't decided what I'm going to do with it yet, but he did. I'll post a picture of it and you'll be able to see one of the tattoos. It's a beautiful tattoo. The work that he did on it, I can kind of show you at least the lily. He did really good work on this one. I don't know what was up with his ink. I don't know if he was using cheap ink or whatever, but it just doesn't look as crisp as it should. And he did a really not good job on hiding the tattoo that I had in there. And he told me at the time that the tattoo that I was trying to cover, that you'll be able to see in the photograph, because it was black, he couldn't cover it. The 2 tattoos that are covered up underneath my wolf moon were black. And they were both covered up very easily, so I gave him several design ideas. I told him a whole bunch of stuff I wanted to get done, and he said none of those would cover the tattoos. Then he said to me that flowers would. So I picked my 2 flowers, we worked on the design. The tattoo was done, and it didn't cover the tattoos. So, which tattoo would you say was the most painful? The stitching around my ankle. Hands down, the stitching around my ankle. I actually almost broke my tattoo addiction with that one. Very bony portion of the leg. He hit it was a she. She hit every bone around the side. It wasn't her fault. It's just the way it is. Hits every bone, hits every tendon. That was by far the most painful tattoo I've ever had. Do you regret any of your tattoos? Now you're going to think I would say yes, but no. I have 4 tattoos that I have covered up, as I said earlier. I don't regret getting them done. I needed the space. I wanted someplace to put, I wanted something else on those areas, and I covered them up. I don't regret getting them done because that was what I wanted at the time. They meant something to me. They were important to me. They had stories behind them. They had memories. I didn't necessarily regret them. I just decided to put something else there instead. What was your least painful tattoo? All the ones on my upper arms. If I'm going to be completely honest with you, the only one that really hurt was the one on my ankle. That stitching that goes around my ankle, that was really the only one that hurt. But all these ones that I have on my upper arms, minimal pain. And last question, who would you tag? Absolutely nobody. If you have tattoos, you want to take this tag, please go ahead and do it, and make sure you leave me a link in your description, because I love talking about tattoos, and I love seeing other people's tattoos, and I love hearing other people's tattoo stories. So make sure you leave me a link if you go ahead and do the tag. Thanks for hanging in there, guys. That's it. I will see you next time. If you liked the video, like, comment, and subscribe. Hit my description. I have a second channel. See you next time.